Before they became a footballing powerhouse, Manchester City hit rock bottom. Relegated from the Premier League in 1996, the club struggled to find its feet in the First Division, before suffering a shocking and unthinkable second relegation in 1998, dropping into the third tier of English football for the first and only time in their history. For a club with City's fanbase and heritage, it was a staggering fall from grace. The pressure to bounce back wasn't just heavy, it was existential. And so came the 98-99 season, a gritty campaign defined by tension, resilience, and a fight for survival in more ways than one. That journey culminated at Wembley Stadium in the Second Division playoff final, where City faced Gillingham in a match that would come to define an era. The game itself is the stuff of legend. City trailed 2-0, with goals in the 81st and 87th minutes seemingly killing the contest and crushing City's hopes. Fans had already started leaving the stadium. But what followed was one of the most remarkable comebacks in football history. City pulled a goal back in the 90th minute through Kevin Horlock, and then, deep into stoppage time, Paul Dickov smashed home an equaliser, sending the match to extra time and then penalties. City held their nerve in the shootout, and with it, secured a dramatic promotion back to the First Division. Many Manchester City fans look back on that day and say, without hesitation, that the club's modern rise, from a chaotic mid to late 90s chaos to Premier League champions, would never have happened without that game. It was the hinge point between two eras, the end of decline and the first breath of revival. Even more impressively, that Wembley win teed them up for back-to-back promotions. Just 12 months later, Manchester City were back where they belonged, in the Premier League. In this video, we're rewinding to that incredible day at Wembley and catching up with the heroes who made it possible. Where did their careers take them? Who kicked on? Who faded away? And where are they all now? Let's take a look at the team that saved Manchester City, the 1999 playoff final winners. If there's one face and one pair of gloves etched into the memory of Manchester City's 1999 playoff final win, it's Nikki Weaver. Then just 20 years old, Weaver was the young goalkeeper who not only played a huge part in getting City to Wembley, but went on to become the penalty shootout hero, diving, saving and eventually sprinting around the pitch in disbelief as promotion was sealed. His celebration is now part of club folklore. Fans still joke to this day that Weaver is still running around Wembley somewhere. Weaver joined City from Mansfield Town in 1997 and quickly rose through the ranks. The promotion season was his breakout campaign, playing nearly every match and quickly earning cult status among fans for his shot-stopping and presence between the sticks. He remained City's first-choice keeper through their back-to-back promotions, helping them return to the Premier League in 2000. But from there, injuries began to take a toll, particularly a long-term knee problem that sidelined him for extended spells. Over time, he fell behind in the pecking order, serving as backup to a succession of keepers, such with the likes of Peter Schmeichel, David Seaman, and David James, all eventually taking over the number 1 jersey. Weaver stayed with the club until 2007, and even saw an extended run in the first team in his final year, due to an injury to number 1, Andreas Isaksson. But by the end of the year, the incumbent manager, Sven-Göran Eriksson, took the decision to move him on, preferring the emerging youngsters of Joe Hart and Kasper Schmeichel. Upon his departure, he had made over 200 appearances in total. He moved on to play for Charlton Athletic, where he spent several seasons as first-choice keeper, before shorter, less involved spells with Dundee United and Burnley. Between 2010 and 2013, he played for Sheffield Wednesday, the club he supported as a boy, before spending his final season with Aberdeen. He retired in 2014, but didn't stray far from football. He returned to Sheffield Wednesday, initially as an academy goalkeeping coach before being promoted to the first team in 2018. By the time he left in 2024, he was the head of academy goalkeeping, but upon his departure, he stated he would likely never return to coaching. A dependable and versatile presence in City's promotion-winning side, Lee Krooks was the kind of player every squad needs. Tough tackling, hard-working and never afraid to put a foot in. Equally comfortable at full-back or in midfield, Krooks played an important role in the campaign, making over 30 appearances that season and starting in the famous playoff final at Wembley. He came through the youth ranks at City and signed a professional contract in 1994. Though never one of the flashier names, he was valued for his grit and determination, qualities that came to define City's lower league revival years. He remained with the club through their back-to-back promotions, but saw his first-team opportunities diminish as City returned to the Premier League. In 2001, following a loan spell with Northampton Town, Krooks was released and went on to play for Barnsley, followed by a spell at Bradford City. He later picked up spells at Notts County and Rochdale before departing professional football in 2008, later appearing at non-league level for both Guiseley and Ossett Town. After hanging up his boots, Krooks retrained and joined the Royal Air Force, serving as a gunner in the RAF regiment, a rare transition from professional footballer to military service. He took on a tour of Afghanistan and spoke openly about the discipline, camaraderie, and purpose he found in the forces, even describing it as tougher than anything he experienced on the pitch. Krooks eventually left the Air Force in 2015 after a 5-year career. Probably even more surprising was his return to football in 2024, as he was announced as assistant manager at non-league Frickley Athletic. And what's even more amazing, on April 25, 2025, due to an injury crisis, Krooks came off the bench in a Northern Counties game against Penistone, making him the oldest player in Frickley's club history at the age of 47. If there's one player who truly embodied Manchester City's rollercoaster journey through the 1990s, it's Richard Edgeill. A product of City's youth academy and a boyhood blue from Oldham, Edgeill was a mainstay at right back during some of the club's darkest and most defining moments. He holds the rare distinction of being the only player to feature regularly during the club's relegation from the Premier League in 1996, fight with them through the lower leagues, and then make it all the way back to the top flight, still wearing the sky blue shirt. That kind of loyalty and resilience is almost unheard of in the modern game. Though never the flashiest player on the pitch, Edgeill was reliable, committed, and calm under pressure. He was City's captain during part of their time in the lower divisions, and played a key role in the final, not just defensively, but also in the nerve-wracking penalty shootout, where he confidently stepped up and converted his spot kick to help secure promotion. He stayed with City throughout their back-to-back promotions, and returned with them to the Premier League in 2000. By then, his appearances were starting to dwindle, but the story was complete. A homegrown lad who stuck with his club from the top tier to the third, and back again. After leaving City in 2002, following a loan with Birmingham City, he moved on to brief and unsuccessful spells at Wigan Athletic and Sheffield United. Although, he found more consistency at Queen's Park Rangers between 2003 and 2005, but by 2008 he was retired after spells at Bradford City and Macclesfield Town. In retirement he stayed connected to the club, he worked with City's academy, and even as a legend tour guide at the Etihad Stadium. He is now a primary school PE teacher and still resides in Manchester. One of Joe Royle's smartest signings during City's time in the wilderness was Gerard Weakens. He arrived from Dutch side Vendam in 1997 as a virtual unknown, but he quickly became a key figure during one of the most turbulent and important periods in the club's modern history. A composed and intelligent defender, Weakens slotted seamlessly into City's back line during the season, offering calmness, versatility, and leadership. He could play at centre-back, right-back, or even as a holding midfielder, and was a fixture in the side that clawed its way to the final at Wembley. Weakens played the full 120 minutes in that legendary final against Gillingham. He remained a regular in the side during the back-to-back promotions, and went on to feature in the Premier League over a number of seasons. In total, he made 182 appearances for City over a 6-year spell. Playing well into the Kevin Keegan era, and to a time where some of his defensive peers included the likes of Sylvain Distin and Daniel van Buiten. He returned to his hometown club Veendam in 2004, where he played until his retirement in 2009, bringing his professional playing career full circle. Since hanging up his boots, Weakens remained with Veendam as a coach and assistant manager, until the club sadly folded in 2013. He later joined FC Groningen as a youth team coach, but is currently employed as the assistant manager of FC Emmen. If you had to pick one player who captured the raw, fight-or-die spirit of Manchester City's lower league years, it would be Andy Morrison. A no-nonsense, old-school centre-half with a steely stare and thunder in his tackles, Morrison arrived in October 1998 from Huddersfield Town and immediately transformed City's defence and dressing room. Though he'd only joined midway through the season, Morrison quickly became captain and was credited with galvanising a fragile squad desperate to escape the third tier. His leadership, physical presence, and pure force of personality made him a cult hero almost instantly. In the final, Morrison was a rock at the back, commanding the defense through one of the most dramatic matches in the club's history. He led by example, holding the line during Gillingham's late goals and rallying the side during extra time and penalties. His role in City's promotion was absolutely pivotal, and he was a key figure in the club's immediate rise back to the First Division. Unfortunately, injuries began to take their toll, and Morrison's appearances became limited. He made just 48 appearances for the club, but such was his impact that many fans rank him among the most important figures of that era, and in the club's overall history. Prior to retiring and leaving City in 2002, he had short loan spells with Sheffield United, Crystal Palace and Blackpool, before hanging up his boots due to persistent knee problems. Post-retirement, Morrison remained permanently connected to City. He worked for the club in an ambassador role, and also worked as a legend tour guide at the Etihad Stadium. He also moved into coaching, and worked as assistant manager at both Worcester City and Northwich Victoria, before becoming director of football at Welsh side Airbus UK Broughton. He's perhaps best known for his successful stint with Connah's Quay Nomads in the Welsh Premier League, where he led the club to several league titles and domestic cups. He also led Nomads to the final of the Scottish Challenge Cup, the first non-Scottish side to get there after Welsh clubs were invited to participate. However, they were beaten by Ross County. Between 2022 and 2024, he was head coach of the Sri Lanka national team but resigned from his position and remains unemployed. Tough tackling, energetic, and full of grit, Michael Brown came through Manchester City's academy during a turbulent time in the club's history, and played a key role in the season that helped pull them back from the brink. After breaking into the first-team squad during their Premier League relegation year in 1996, Brown became a regular figure during the club's time in the second and third tiers. In the campaign, he was a reliable, aggressive presence in midfield, the kind of player you wanted in a battle. That match turned out to be his last appearance for the club, and he was substituted in the 61st minute while the game was goalless. Before his permanent exit, Brown had loan spells at Portsmouth and Sheffield United, the latter of which became a permanent move in late 1999. At Sheffield United, Brown enjoyed a strong 4-year stint, developing into one of the Championship's standout midfielders. His performances earned him a move to the Premier League with Tottenham Hotspur in 2004, where he reached the League Cup final. He later played for Fulham, Wigan Athletic, and a return to Portsmouth, making consistent appearances in the top flight, known for his combative style and relentless work rate. Later moves took him to Leeds United and finally Port Vale, where he transitioned into coaching and took over as manager in 2016. In retirement, Brown has remained visible in the game, working as a pundit, covering Premier League and EFL matches, and continuing to contribute to football through mentoring and media. He has also worked as an occasional pundit for Manchester City TV, keeping a link to his former club. A cultured left-footer with a knack for popping up when it mattered most, Kevin Horlock was one of the unsung heroes of Manchester City's revival era, and a key figure during that dramatic campaign. Signed from Swindon Town in 1997, Horlock brought composure, set-piece delivery, and a cool head to City's midfield, along with a handy knack for scoring from distance or the penalty spot. But the moment that defined his City career came at Wembley in May 1999. With just minutes to go, it was Horlock who pulled one back in the 90th minute, breathing life into a side on the edge of collapse. It proved to be the turning point. The comeback was on, and City would eventually win on penalties, with Horlock dispatching his kick in one of the most famous moments in the club's history. Horlock remained an important figure during the club's back-to-back promotions, helping City return to the Premier League in 2000. He made over 230 appearances in total, becoming a firm fan favourite for his calm under pressure and unwavering commitment. After leaving in 2003, he remained in the top flight for one more year at West Ham United, before later having spells with Ipswich Town, Doncaster Rovers, Scunthorpe United, Mansfield Town, and Needham Market. Post-retirement, Horlock moved into coaching and management. He worked in the Northern Ireland youth setup, reflecting his own international career of 38 caps, and went on to manage Needham Market, Chatham Town, and is currently in his second spell in charge of Malden and Tiptree. Tenacious, combative, and a tireless presence in midfield, Jeff Whitley was the kind of player you wanted in the trenches. And, during Manchester City's time in the third tier, he was exactly that, despite being at times unfavoured during his City career. Born in Zambia and raised in Manchester, Whitley came through City's academy alongside his younger brother Jim and broke into the first team in the mid-90s. Whitley played a vital role in the season, including the legendary win, where he helped City battle through extra time and into the shootout, playing the full 120 minutes. He remained with the club during the back-to-back promotions, but as City prepared for life in the Premier League, his opportunities started to dwindle. In his last few years at the club, he was loaned out to both Wrexham and Notts County, before eventually moving on permanently in 2003. Whitley went on to have a solid championship career, most notably with Sunderland, where he helped them win promotion to the Premier League in 2005. He later played for Cardiff City, returned briefly to Wrexham, and had spells with non-league clubs Stalybridge Celtic, Woodley Sports and Northwich Victoria, winding down a career that saw him earn 20 caps for Northern Ireland. Jeff's story after football is perhaps even more powerful. He spoke openly about his battles with addiction and mental health, and after rebuilding his life, he became a mentor and player support officer with the Professional Footballers Association. Today, he works directly with current and former players, helping them through the kinds of personal struggles he knows all too well. A member of Manchester United's fabled class of '92, Terry Cook was once seen as a future star, a tricky right winger with an excellent delivery, calm on the ball, and full of early promise. But while many of his peers at United went on to lift Premier League and Champions League titles, Cook's journey would be one of fleeting highs, a cult following, and a well-travelled career. Cook broke through at Old Trafford in the mid-90s, but found his path to the first team blocked by the rise of David Beckham in the same position. After loan spells at Sunderland and Birmingham City, he made a permanent move to Manchester City in 1999, having impressed during a productive loan spell that helped City climb back up the table during their second division campaign. Cook played a key role in getting City to Wembley, with his wing play and creativity adding a much-needed spark down the flanks. He played the full 120 minutes and even dispatched his penalty in the shootout. His efforts are still fondly remembered by fans who watched the club dig itself out from the third tier. The final was for Cook, the beginning of the end at City, despite his time only having just begun. Ironically, despite being one of the few players in that side with Premier League experience, Cook was deemed surplus to requirements once the club completed back-to-back promotions and returned to the top flight. What followed was a string of moves. He had loans at Wigan Athletic, Sheffield Wednesday and Grimsby Town, before joining the latter permanently in 2002. He later returned to Wednesday themselves on a permanent deal before embarking on an international chapter. That included a successful 4-year stint with Colorado Rapids in Major League Soccer, and later a move to Australian side North Queensland Fury and Gabala SC in Azerbaijan, where he played under Tony Adams. After hanging up his boots, Cook returned to the United States and shifted his focus to youth coaching and development. He's now part of the coaching staff at Denver Kickers, helping to shape the next generation of talent, far from the English game he grew up in. Few players capture the spirit of Manchester City's fight back quite like Paul Dickov, tenacious, fearless, and forever etched into club folklore thanks to one unforgettable moment. Small in stature but massive in heart, Dickov didn't just play for City, he embodied their grit and resilience during one of the most pivotal eras in their history. Signed from Arsenal in 1996, Dickov quickly became a cult hero at Main Road. What he lacked in finesse, he more than made up for in sheer work rate and unrelenting determination. His relentless pressing and never-say-die attitude made him a nightmare for defenders, and a fan favourite on the terraces. His defining legacy came with City trailing 2-0 in the playoff final. Their hopes of promotion were all but gone. Kevin Horlock pulled one back in the 90th minute, and then Dickov struck. In the 95th minute, he blasted in the equaliser past his best friend and ex-Arsenal teammate Vince Bartram, sending the City end into chaos. It was one of the most dramatic goals in the club's history, and many fans still credit that moment with changing the trajectory of the club forever. We'll just not mention the miss in the shootout, not that it mattered at full time though. Dickov remained with the club through the back-to-back promotions that followed, helping them return to the Premier League by 2000. He eventually departed in 2002, but his legacy was already secured. He went on to have spells with Leicester City and Blackburn Rovers, before returning for a second spell at Manchester City in 2006. While he was no longer a regular, and it's fair to say well past his best, his return was welcomed by fans. Seen as a bridge between the old city and the new era beginning to take shape, Dickov departed the club only several months before the sale of the club to Sheikh Mansour in 2008. He later played for Crystal Palace, Blackpool, a second spell at Leicester City, and both Derby County and Leeds United, before initially retiring in 2010. Dickov then decided to step into management, as well as prolonging his playing career, as he took charge of Oldham Athletic as player-manager from 2010 to 2013, later managing Doncaster Rovers for several years until 2015. Today, Dickov remains an ever-present figure at Manchester City, working as a matchday presenter and pundit on City TV, and serving as a club ambassador. His face, voice and passion for the club continue to be a staple of life at the Etihad, both in front of the cameras and behind the scenes. Known to Manchester City fans simply as the GOAT, Shaun Gore's name remains synonymous with one of the most crucial eras in the club's history. Signed from Bristol City in 1998, Gore became an instant fan favourite thanks to his relentless work rate, as well as his sharp instincts in front of goal and knack for scoring vital goals, including a crucial strike in the playoff semi-final against Wigan that helped fire City to Wembley. While he didn't find the net in the dramatic final, Gore was a key presence in the squad that achieved back-to-back promotions, propelling City from their lowest ever league position back to the Premier League in just 2 seasons. His most prolific campaign came in 2001-2002, when he hit 28 goals. In his final season in blue, he famously scored twice in the final Manchester derby at Main Road, as City ran out 3-1 winners over Manchester United. All in all, he netted 103 goals in 212 appearances for the club before departing in 2003. Gore later had spells with Reading, Coventry City, and Southend United. He later returned to Bermuda, where he played for Bermuda Hoggers, as well as his boyhood side, North Village Rams, where he also stepped into management, where he formally retired from playing in 2008. Since hanging up his boots, Gore has stayed immersed in football. He managed Ilkeston Town in 2017, and continued working in youth and community football in Bermuda. In 2021, he returned to Manchester City in an ambassadorial and part-time coaching role, reinforcing his legendary status among the fan base. More recently, Gore has stepped into the women's game. He is now on the coaching staff at Aston Villa Women, and during the 2024-25 season, he even served as their interim manager, showcasing his development as a coach at the elite level. Moving on to the substitutes, a composed, left-footed defender, Tony Vaughn was one of the quieter contributors to Manchester City's dramatic revival. Signed from Ipswich Town in 1997, Vaughn brought reliability and balance to City's back line during a time when the club was struggling for identity and direction. He featured regularly across the campaign and came on as a substitute in the final. Following promotion, his game time became more limited, and he left the club in 2000 just after securing a second promotion, meaning he never went on to play in the top flight for City. He went on to have spells at Cardiff City, Nottingham Forest, Scunthorpe United, Mansfield Town, Motherwell, Barnsley, Stockport County and Hucknall Town, before quietly stepping away from professional football in 2006. Unlike many of his teammates, Vaughn opted to walk away from the sport entirely. He forged a new career outside football, working for several years as a car salesman, most notably with the Audi dealership in Lincoln. Though he has since moved on from that role, he continues to work away from the game and has stayed out of the football spotlight. A cultured midfielder with a silky left foot, Ian Bishop was one of the most experienced players in the Manchester City squad during their campaign, and someone who brought composure and creativity during a time of high anxiety for the club. Having started his career at Everton, Bishop had already enjoyed a highly respected top-flight run, particularly with West Ham United, before rejoining City in 1998 for his second spell at the club. While he wasn't always a guaranteed starter that season, Bishop's intelligence on the ball and veteran presence made him a valuable asset. In the final, he came on as a second-half substitute, helping steady the midfield during the chaotic closing stages of the game, and contributing to the momentum that led to City's stunning late comeback. Bishop remained with the club during their rapid rise, and played a role as they secured back-to-back promotions, and returned to the Premier League. He left City in 2001 and began the next phase of his playing career in the United States, joining Miami Fusion in the MLS, a move that was rare for English players at the time. He also briefly returned to the UK with Barry Town and Rochdale, as well as a short non-league stint with Radcliffe Borough, before returning stateside with the New Orleans Shellshockers. Post-retirement, Bishop stayed in the US and built a varied career. He's worked in coaching and media, and notably serves as the technical director of Evergreen Hammers FC, a youth development club in Virginia. Away from football, he's also a keen and accomplished poker player, having competed in professional tournaments across the US and abroad. Signed from Sheffield United midway through the season, Gareth Taylor offered Joe Royle a physical and dependable option up front during one of Manchester City's most pivotal campaigns. Though not in the starting 11 at Wembley, Taylor came off the bench bringing fresh legs and aerial presence as City launched their late, unforgettable comeback. While he didn't get on the scoresheet, his contribution helped disrupt Gillingham's defensive rhythm and push the game toward extra time and penalties. Taylor remained with the club during their back-to-back promotions and returned to the Premier League, but found regular starts hard to come by. He was loaned out to Port Vale, Queen's Park Rangers, and Burnley, before making a permanent move to Turf Moor in 2001. Over the following years, Taylor became a reliable presence in the Football League, featuring for Nottingham Forest, Crewe, Alexandra, Tranmere Rovers, Doncaster Rovers, Carlisle United, and finally Wrexham, where he retired in 2011. After hanging up his boots, Taylor transitioned into coaching. He began working with Manchester City's youth program in Dubai, before returning to the UK to become an under-16s coach at the City Football Academy. In 2020, he was appointed manager of Manchester City Women, stepping into one of the most high-profile jobs in the women's game. During his time in charge, Taylor led the side to an FA Cup and a League Cup, but his tenure was also marked by inconsistency. Despite the club's top-tier facilities and resources, some described the lack of a league title or European breakthrough as an underachievement. His position came under increased scrutiny following the departures of key England internationals Chloe Kelly and Ellie Roebuck, both of whom were seen to have left under difficult circumstances, much to the frustration of the fanbase. Taylor left his role in March 2025, bringing an end to a 5-year managerial spell that delivered silverware but also sparked debate. When Joe Royle took over at Manchester City in February 1998, the club was in freefall. Relegated from the Premier League 2 years earlier and spiralling toward the unthinkable, the third tier, it was Royle who stepped in to steady the ship. Despite his efforts, City were relegated that season, marking the lowest point in the club's history. But from that low came one of the club's greatest turning points, and Royle was the man who masterminded it. In 1998-99, he rebuilt City into a promotion contender, blending experience with fresh talent. Under his leadership, they finished third and reached the Division 2 playoff final at Wembley. With City trailing in the 81st minute, Royle remained calm as his side produced one of English football's most dramatic comebacks. The win didn't just secure promotion, it teed up back-to-back promotions, and just 12 months later, Manchester City were back in the Premier League. Royle stayed on until 2001, but after another relegation from the top flight, he was dismissed as the club looked to move in a new direction. He was replaced by Kevin Keegan, who took them back up immediately, and they've remained in the top flight ever since. Despite that, many City fans credit Royle with saving the club from potential obscurity, laying the foundations for the modern era. After City, he managed Ipswich Town from 2002 to 2006, leading them to consecutive playoff finishes. He later worked in consultancy and development roles, including a return to Everton and a brief spell as director of football at Oldham Athletic. As of today, Joe Royle sits on the board of directors at Oldham Athletic, the club where his managerial journey began and where he remains a respected figure. Now largely retired from the day-to-day game, he continues to offer guidance behind the scenes,